Are you sick of having to chase customers for money every month, even though they keep telling you they love the work you do for them? It can be so draining and so demoralising to have to continually chase people for payment, not to mention the uncertainty that it creates in the cash flow in your business as well. So this week I am going to share 3 tips to help you get paid faster and more consistently and take away all that stress of having to chase for money and really not being sure when you're going to get paid. So tip number 1 is make sure that you invoice promptly. I cannot tell you how many times I've talked to people over the years who are really frustrated that they get paid late regularly, but they also regularly invoice late. They're tight on cash flow, they're short of money, and yet actually their invoices go out a week, 2 weeks, sometimes even later than that. And then they're desperately wanting payment, but also by that stage they feel a bit embarrassed to chase because they know they were late, so then it feels a bit awkward to then be pushy with the customer. So when you send out your invoices on time every time, you give your customers the message that you are really well organised, that you're professional, that you're totally in control of the financial side of your business. And that then transmits the message that if you're on the ball with your finances, you're also going to be on the ball in terms of knowing when you get paid or not. So you basically set the scene for them recognising that you are a professional business who expects to be paid on time. Simply by sending your invoice on time, you give yourself the maximum possibility of that happening, but you also create this understanding with the customer that you've got a professional view of finances and you expect your professional payment terms to be met. The second tip is to make sure that you have a chasing process really clearly defined. So often it's easy to become emotional at this point. When a customer is late, you're the one that ends up feeling embarrassed. Why? You've done the work. It was brilliant. You know the customer appreciates it, and yet you feel awkward about chasing. All you're actually asking for is what you deserve for the work that you have done. But the best way to take out that emotion and the turmoil that goes with it is to have a really clear process. When you're just following a process, that's not emotional. So when that process says to you, the first time I'm going to chase an overdue invoice is at day 2 or day 3, and then your process says, my first chase will be a WhatsApp message or an email or a Facebook message or however you generally deal with that client. When you've got clarity on when you will chase them and how you will chase them, and you've got a template for what that message is going to say, you take away that emotion. You also know already exactly what date am I going to chase, rather than doing that whole should I or shouldn't I, and then putting it off and then feeling awkward about it. So really have a clear process, and not just for the first step as well. Create a process that details when will you chase them, if they still haven't paid, when's the second chase, when's the third chase, what's the content and the format of each of those, and at what point will you escalate it further if that absolutely needs to happen. So really create that process, and then you've got that clarity and you take away the emotion and the stress, and you're much more likely to stick to your process. And then the third tip is to basically reinforce those boundaries consistently. Make sure that you stick to that credit control process month in, month out, because by doing that, you demonstrate to a customer that you're consistent, you're well organised, you're on the ball, and that you expect that payment on time. There are plenty of businesses out there that will only ever pay when you give them a nudge for the invoice. There are loads of businesses, and the bigger the business, the more likely it is to happen. There are loads of businesses that like to try and eke out those payments as long as possible because that's what helps their cash flow. It's a nightmare for your cash flow, but hey, they're more interested in theirs than in yours. But when you continually reinforce that process, those people who drag their feet or who only ever pay on a chase or who only pay the people that shout loudest will pay you first. So you stand a much better chance of getting paid on time every time if you stick to those boundaries and principles that you have defined in that process of how and when you're going to chase for any late payments. So the other big thing to bear in mind here is chasing for late payments is not being pushy. You should never feel awkward or uncomfortable about it. This is just about being paid what you deserve for the amazing work you do. This is not pushy, this is professional. If this is something you know you really need help with in your business, just click on the link below, book a 15-minute call with me, and let's talk about how we can change the whole focus of being paid on time in your business.